if you had a table in a kitchen that you could invite 6 people with very different views to, that would make for an interesting meal, wouldn't it, Dave?
That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to kind of meet around the table, and we're going to talk about at least one of the key issues of the week, because we're going to do this on a weekly basis. Table, the successor to the panic room. Now, Steve, you're at your kitchen table. Is that a place you frequent often?
Yeah. Well, there's obviously the kitchen table, and there's the bench. The kitchen bench which people sit at. And depending how you feel you want to engage with people, you can sit next to each other in a row, like at a diner, or you could sit around the actual table and have a conversation. And kitchen tables are good for conversations. What about your kitchen table, Dave?
Well, it's great. And I think that that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to kind of meet around the table, and those of you who are watching, you're invited as guests. We're going to have some guests actually come and be with us. Grab yourself a coffee or whatever it is you have for breakfast. And we're going to talk about at least one of the key issues of the week, because we're going to do this on a weekly basis. So now we call this third space. For anyone who's watching, can you explain what third space is?
A third space is a more neutral, friendly place to have a conversation. Lots of different places can be third spaces, but they have to be neutral places where differences of opinion can meet for common discussion.
Yeah. And I think, sometimes people say about the Christian church that we're behind the curve, we're always playing catch up. Well, just to let people know, we are really cutting edge. And yesterday, my wife contacted me to tell me that even Scott Morrison was catching up with the whole concept of third space. Because can you believe this? He said Australia needs to move into a third space. Don't you agree?
I do. And I'd be interested to see, have you got a famous clip of him saying it though, David?
No, I don't, but I have a famous clip of him saying something else. So let's just explore this concept of the kitchen table a wee bit more. I think that people have got out of the habit of sitting around together as a family and having a meal, and a lot will do TV dinners. Is that a wrong impression, Steve? Or where do you think?
No, yeah, that's a true impression. Obviously, I think it's even moved on from TV dinners to screen dinners, where everyone is occupying some form of the room with their own screen with a meal. And so it doesn't feel as much that people are gathered around kitchen tables. And there's a socioeconomic aspect of that as well. I think the more sort of socially stable a family is, the more it tends to sit around kitchen tables and have conversations. But then again, there's also a kitchen table is a great place for a good conversation. But gee, it can get hotter than the food at times, surely. Maybe that's only my house.
Yeah. Well, I think also it's good for a family. It's good for people to sit, because you can ask how each other is doing. And then also you can talk about bigger issues. I mean, I find the table's really good for that. And Annabelle and myself would sit around that table, and people would sit and they would talk about the weather, they would talk about sport, they would talk about the sermon, and they would talk about the big issues as well.
I think one thing too about the kitchen table is sometimes we don't meet up with people as diverse as we used to meet with people. So everyone around a table sometimes shares similar views, but it's great to get people around a table. If you had a table in a kitchen that you could invite 6 people with very different views to, that would make for an interesting meal, wouldn't it, Dave? I don't know if I'd invite you.
It would. I'm just wondering who I would invite. I think I would invite Jordan Peterson and Ricky Gervais and Russell Brand and the Pope and Scott Morrison. I think I would invite Scott Morrison and Xi Jinping. That would be my ones.
That would be interesting.
What about you?
Yeah, who would I invite for a kitchen table? Well, I would say I would definitely invite Russell Brand, because I think that would be an amazing person to have around the kitchen table. Who else would I have? I'd probably have the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition at the time. And there's got to be someone in the UK that I can think of I'd probably invite Boris Johnson, just to see if he eats as messily as he looks. Does he throw food around the place?
Yeah, that would be interesting. Listen, speaking of Scott Morrison, I do want to share this, which I thought was just absolutely brilliant.
talking loudly on your phone on the train. Stop it. Or I wait for you in a narrow street and you don't give a thank you wave. Stop it. If you get to the front of the queue and don't know what you want, stop it. People who walk in shopping centres, then just stop. Stop it. Not replacing the toilet. Stop it. Leaving voicemail. Stop it. Grown men wearing legs. Stop it. Not picking up your cig. Stop it. If you heat something in the microwave and press stop before it's done, but then you leave it as it is and don't make it display the time. Stop it. Oh, it's ridiculous. It's un-Australian and it must stop. Stop it. 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 If you're in a group of 5 and you're walking side by side, stop it. Or you're one of those folks who stand up straight away on flights, stop it. Swiping through my photos when I only showed you one, stop it. Saying 110%, it can't be done. Stop it. Staring at your phone while I'm talking to you, getting on a flight then taking off your shoes, press the button that hits when you're waiting to cross, hit the bottom of the escalator, then just stop. When you put something back on a random shelf in a supermarket, stop it. Sending reply alls. Stop it. Oh, it's ridiculous. It's un-Australian. I can't be more blunt about it. Stop it. Oh, it's ridiculous. It's not sensible. And it must stop. Stop it. 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 Stop it.
There you go. You enjoy that, Steve?
I did. It's particularly people walking 5 abreast on a street. That gets on my nerves, man. I just can't stand that. It's like, it's the height of, but I'm standing up at the end of the flight immediately. I do that all the time. So that's okay. I don't need to stop that. So there's stuff there that I need to stop. Like I need to stop my dog barking at the moment. And I can hear him barking.
But look, we are going to go, I think, next week. Well, we'll look at one of the cultural issues of the day. We do have something, the Eternity podcast. That also comes out weekly. Steve, do you want to say what that's about?
Yeah, Eternity podcast is, at the moment, it's called Life in Wartime. And we're dealing with the whole idea that it was actually the Prime Minister who said, this is a wartime experience we're going through in the pandemic. So we thought we would look at some of the pressure points in our culture because of something like a pandemic, education, peace, love, entertainment, all those sorts of things. How do those things get affected? Third Space podcast hosted by Eternity Podcasts.
Yep. So you can get that. And meanwhile, come back to the kitchen table next week. And we hope that other world leaders will be joining Mr. Morrison in our Third Space. God bless you all.
Oh, stop it. Yeah.